Well, happy Saturday, everybody, and welcome to the weekend video. Well, I want to talk about a phone call. I had a phone call from a dear friend of ours, and she was telling me about a well-known public speaker who is, I guess you might want to call him a spiritualist. And she likes a lot of what he has to say, but she didn't like something he was talking about where he was referring to destroying your own ego. And I disagree with it as well, but it's a common type of teaching you can even find in Christianity. I've heard Christian preachers and teachers teach on a certain concept known in Christianity in several different denominations. And in Christianity, it's known as dying to self. And the concept basically is that you try to be holy and righteous before God, and part of that involves you killing the you know to be you, destroying the you know to be you, because that you is evil. And for you to be holy, you've got to destroy the very you that you are by some spiritual exercise of obedience, prayer, manner of thinking, all of that. And it's a terrible thing because it's not true. And I'll tell you where they get it from, because every time I've heard it taught, it comes primarily from one thing that Paul said in Galatians. And I'm going to read that to you. It comes from Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. It says, I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me, and the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. See, they take this verse and they say, to be holy, God wants you to die to yourself. That's what they call this. Now, dying to self is actually not in the Bible. In that, that phrase is not in the Bible. Dying to self. So, and they use this verse to justify what they're saying. But what Paul is really saying here is, prior to this, he was talking about living according to the law. In other words, trying to be obedient to the law of commandments by your actions and deeds to make yourself righteous and holy before God. And he says that is death. In that there is no life. And he is crucified with Christ, which that law was also nailed to a tree. And he says, but yet nevertheless he lives now. Why he lives? Because of Christ, and by the faith of the Son of God, who loved him and gave himself for him. Christ did not come for you to die to yourself, for you to destroy your own understanding of who you are. On the contrary, he loved me and gave himself for me, means he came for me to be free from obedience to commandments and laws and actions and deeds, but be free to be myself. And he says, right after that, he says, this is now the life I live. I do not frustrate grace. It's by the grace of God that we are free to be ourselves. So, dying to self, it's not a gospel concept. It is very much opposite of the good news of the gospel. It's revolutionary, I know. Have a revolutionary week.